time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, folks, we have a new addition to the Lehigh Valley Health Network. I keep telling you, folks, the bar keeps getting raising in healthcare. New addition to the orthopedic department, Dr. Peter Kozicky is here with me today. He's not a newcomer to orthopedic medicine, but a newcomer to the greater Hazleton area, and we're looking forward to speaking with the good doctor. Remember, folks, if you will need any information what we're talking about today, the number to call is 570-501-6730. Doctor, how are you?
Very good.
That's good. Well, welcome to Greater Hazleton and the area here.
Thank you. Thank you.
You'll find the people here are fabulous, tremendous. You'll find the area to be very welcoming. I'm sure you know that already. Right?
I've already seen that. Yes, indeed.
Well, first of all, where are you from originally?
Originally, actually, I was born in Germany. And
what part of Germany?
Germany, Ellwangen, which is not far from Stuttgart, I guess, in the Black Forest area. And my parents and I came over through Ellis Island. We lived in the Lower East Side of Manhattan when we first came to this country.
And then you said you were 2 years old when you came over,
yes.
Right? Yeah. So you lived in New York, right?
Yes.
Then what happened that you decided to go into medicine?
Into medicine? Well, you know, actually we had a family friend, a Dr. Jaxi from Czechoslovakia, and he was just the nicest person, and he was a doctor at NYU, professor. I emulated him, and he got me interested in medicine.
So that's when what school did you go to down in New York?
I went to New York University.
How'd you find that school?
It was a very good school.
Yeah.
Yes. I had a good education there, indeed.
And then from there, where did you go?
Well, from there I went to medical school, went to Chicago, the Chicago Medical School. So we spent time in Chicago. Then I did training in Philadelphia at Temple University in general surgery. And finally I completed my orthopedic residency program in Boston, at Boston University.
So orthopedics, as I said on your flyer, it says why I became a doctor. I love orthopedics because I can make a real difference to my patients by resolving problems they inherit that interfere in their daily life. So you really have to have a love for what you do, correct?
I do have a love for it.
And how long have you been practicing?
For over 30 years.
30 years. Wow.
Yes.
What made you come to the greater Hazleton area?
Well, actually, several reasons. One, it was getting to be too crowded in the Lehigh Valley, too many physicians, and the marketing wars between hospitals and so on. I decided to come somewhere where there's a need. Secondly, my daughter lives up here, and the grandkids, and we want to be closer to family.
Oh, yeah? They live in this area?
They live in Wilkes-Barre.
Oh, okay.
And so it'll be easier for my wife, so we can see them more frequently.
Any doctors in your family?
Yes, in fact, my brother is a gastroenterologist in New York City.
Wow. So have any brothers or sisters other than your one brother?
I have another brother who's an attorney in New York.
Oh, well, there you go. They balance each other. Yeah. That's good. So you came to Hazleton. You're going to be working with Dr. Horton.
Yes.
Very nice guy. He was on the show, and so it'll be a team, right?
Yes, yeah. He'll be my partner.
What are some of the things that you'll be working with in the orthopedic area?
Well, we want to try to service as many and as broad a field in skeletal muscular problems as possible. So in fact, at the Lehigh Valley Physicians Network, we have a team of physicians. We have orthopedic surgeons, the two of us, plus we have physiatrists, we have occupational medicine, and we all integrate to try to work together and serve community need. The
Lehigh Valley Health Network, you know, very excited about having them come on. You know, I know this is something that Jim Edwards had worked for a while, and now you got a great president, Fletcher. He's a great guy.
He is.
And his heart is in healthcare, and that's where it's at. I think we're in this area. We've been blessed to have as many great physicians as we have, and we have a lot of great doctors in this area.
Yes.
I think you said you'll be visiting with them, and you'll find that they're second to none, really, Peter. Really, they're really second to none. Have you found that as far as some of the doctors?
Indeed. I visited physicians, excellent backgrounds, Yale trained, so I mean, top-notch training. The quality of the medicine is really top-notch.
Yeah. And many years ago, when you would say that, people would say, we got to go out of town. Okay, well, out of town came to us. you know. So what are some of the types of patients that you'll be dealing with?
Well, actually, we'll be dealing from children right on up to the elderly. We plan to see all sorts of general orthopedics, fractures, ailments. Some of the conservative, non-urgent matters will be handled by physiatrists. We also have chiropractors on staff. But when it comes to something more complex and serious that may require surgery, then we'll be involved.
Mm-hmm. What are some of what do children have? I mean, what are some of the things?
Well, children can be anything from a click in the hip in the newborn unit to a child that can't move their elbow because it hurts, a swollen knee in a child. You have to differentiate whether it's just a viral synovitis or whether it's an infection, something serious. So children get ill as well.
Yeah, and of course, you know, as we have an older population in this area, so you're doing a lot of. I mean, you're looking at seniors at hips, knees. Whatever.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. Not only do we handle the simple cases of joint replacements, also handle complex cases that have failed in other hands, revision surgery. In hips and knees. I've been involved in training physicians in joint replacements, a lot of work overseas efforts. We have a lot of experience in that field.
You become a carpenter, don't you?
That's what I am. I'm a carpenter. Urologists, they're the plumbers, and so on.
When you say complex cases, everyone has, a doctor has a story to tell. What was one of the most complex cases that you could recall that you worked on?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Some of the most complex cases were cases. Well, with joint replacements, taking down a fused total hip that was painful and converting that into a total hip, recreating the anatomy out of nothing. That's a complex case. When working overseas, quite honestly, seeing patients that had been operated on a dozen times.
Oh my gosh.
With scars all about the hips and knees, and trying then to salvage these very complex, difficult cases. An interesting case is I operated on a firefighter that was involved in the Chernobyl accident, and he had radiation necrosis of both of his hips. A young man in his 40s, crippled, couldn't walk. We operated on both of his hips, and he did so well that in a television program that they broadcast over there, he came on stage and started to do the hopak, getting squatting down and doing the dance with his hips. So that was a nice advertisement
for you. That's for sure. Yeah, he was able to get back to his normal life now.
Yes, yes.
And I guess that's primarily what you do, is try to bring people back, as you said, to anything that interferes with their life.
Well, that's why I liked orthopedics, because you can find a finished product. It's not a chronic condition that you manage throughout life, but you find a solution and let them get on with their lives in a normal fashion.
Is there anything you specialize in, Peter?
Well, as I mentioned, joint replacements is one of the areas that I have a particular expertise in, although I do general orthopedics as well.
Folks, I'm talking to Dr. Peter Kozicky. Am I saying that correctly? Kozicky?
Yes.
Who is now with the, no stranger to orthopedic medicine, but he's with the Lehigh Valley Health Network. Phone number up there is 570-501-6730. I always, I have a couple friends of mine, I have particularly one close friend of mine who has been suffering with his knee, and I keep telling him, get to the orthopedic surgeon. I don't care who you go to, just get to an orthopedic. There's no reason to have the suffering, you know, he can only walk a certain amount of times before it starts to bother him. And, you know, sometimes, well, because I think sometimes, listen, if it was me, I'm the biggest baby going. I'm a baby, period. So how do you comfort a person like that when you're talking about, you know, the surgery and, you know, the rehabilitation and all these things that, you know, if I come for a conference, conference with you?
Look, you know, everybody has a certain apprehension regarding surgery. Now, take, for instance, a person, an example is a patient who said, you know, I kind of twisted my knee 20 years ago, and it just hasn't felt right since. You know, every time I sort of step the wrong way, I feel a pain in there, and I can still do my job, but it just doesn't feel right. We do the diagnostics, MRIs. Turns out there's a very small tear in the meniscus. An arthroscopic procedure is done that takes under a half hour as an outpatient. Patient afterwards says, you know, I haven't felt this good in 20 years. I feel absolutely normal and wonderful. It's a shame to live with something. You can still live with it, but if it affects the quality of life, we can help you with that.
Well, they tell me, and believe me, I've interviewed many orthopedic doctors, but they tell me that sometimes the longer you wait, you know, it doesn't get any better. There could be arthritis and things that start, you know, developing. Is that a fact?
That's very true. Again, in the case of a knee, if you leave a torn meniscus, some create flaps, which is an unstable segment where they wiggle around inside. And it's sort of like having a little stone or pebble inside your shoe, and it rubs, and it wears out the articular cartilage, leading to arthritis. Now, once that's done, that's a permanent damage, which could have been avoided.
Do you determine whether there has to be a total knee or a partial knee or a hip? I mean, is this something that you determine when you're after examination? Indeed,
indeed. And in fact, many people don't need surgery. It's not, as a surgeon, I only do operations. We try to find other solutions for them. Sometimes they just need a good course of conditioning, of therapy. Sometimes an injection will help.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's something that people, especially people who've been older people, feel they only want to do surgeries. You know, that's all they're concerned about. They want to get you in the operating room and do a surgery, and I think that's furthest from the truth.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you're examining someone, you make sure you do whatever you can before. Not that the surgery is a difficult task. I mean, but there is, you know, I would think any good doctor would do that.
Well, surgery is a very serious matter. And when you, for instance, if many patients who have a pain in the hip, for instance, and an X-ray is taken and it shows some arthritis. Now I say, well, arthritis, pain in the hip, boom, you need a hip replacement. Well, it turns out, when you investigate it a little more thoroughly, you see that the person has a bad disc, some arthritis in their back, which is referred into the hip. Now, a total hip operation would be the worst thing for that patient. So you have to be careful and evaluate the patient as a whole to see what precisely is the problem, and surgery may not be the answer.
You know, like in our industry, you see all these cameras here. Things change. I mean, our technology is going through the roof, and I'm sure in the last 30 years, you've seen a tremendous amount of technology in orthopedics. So, do you keep abreast of those particular advances?
Oh, absolutely. We have continuing education requirements in our specialty that we have to follow. There's always advances, particularly in the area where I specialize in. I keep up to date. I'm at least twice a year going to conferences that pertain to that specialty.
How do you feel when you see that, going back, like even 10 years ago versus what they have now? And it must be, I know my son comes and tells me all these things on the cameras, and I can't believe, what they could do now, but, and our technology here is just going through the roof. How do you, I know how I feel when I see that. As a doctor, I mean, it must be something.
Well, that's where experience takes hold, because you want to stay current, but you also want to be a little critical of the new innovations. Not everything that's new is necessarily better. So you have to weigh what you have versus perhaps a newer technique, and be critical of that, because I've seen in my 30 years many so-called innovations, new things, like for instance, so-called the rage was metal-on-metal hip replacements, with resurfacing. Well, now we're seeing the problems with them, and now they're out of favor. So if you were the first one to jump on the bandwagon, we're the first to offer this and that, and now you have to deal with those complications. So you have to really use your judgment with the innovations.
Mm-hmm. So I guess you're saying that's where the experience comes into knowing, because anatomy of a knee is the same as it is now as it was, 100 years ago.
Well, that hasn't changed, fortunately.
No, I'm just saying, yeah. Folks, I'm talking to Dr. Peter Kozicky. He is joining the orthopedic team with Dr. Horton here for the Lehigh Valley Health Network. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after these messages. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. We're talking to Dr. Peter Kozicky, who is an orthopedic surgeon joining the Lehigh Valley Health Network. And remember, on my website is ssptv.com. My email is sam@ssptv.com. You can watch all of our health shows on the website 24/7, serving the entire world. Also, if you want to find out about Dr. Kozicky or anything about the Lehigh Valley Health Network, their website is lvhn.org/Hazelton. And just for the benefit again, Doctor, you're married, right? You have
yes.
You just see 2 grandchildren, 1 coming on the way, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, they live in Wilkes-Barre.
Well, that's good. Talking about your experience, you've been practicing, you said, for 30 years now, right?
Yes.
And the point is, there's been a lot of accomplishments. Tell me some about the accomplishments that you've done already. I've seen some on your flyer, but what are some of the major accomplishments that you like to talk about?
Well, I'm proud of some of the work that we've done overseas, especially I was involved in a humanitarian effort in Ukraine. Initially, we were seeing there was a program called Paul Newman's Hole in the Wall program, where they brought children that were involved with radiation illnesses from the Chernobyl accident. They came to New York City. I got to meet the doctor there, who's an orthopedic surgeon. Then we made contacts, and we moved to Lviv, Ukraine, to open up a center of excellence in joint replacements there, where I was involved in the first operations and training orthopedic surgeons in hip replacements. And since that time, that was about 13 years ago, since that time, they've done thousands of operations, and I'm very proud of that. Well, what can I say? I'm proud to be a granddad,
I know the feeling. My wife and I share on 3 beautiful grandchildren. Some of the things now, you're working with different workman compensation. How does that fit in?
Well, Hazleton is an amazing hub here. I never realized it, actually, coming from Bethlehem. But we've been spending time reaching out to the various industries, visiting them on site to establish contacts with them to provide services, because the Hazleton has grown tremendously on account of the industries moving into this area, job opportunities and so on. And again, there's a definite need to service this large inflow of people.
Do you find in workman compensation where someone unfortunately gets hurt, okay? But I see here that you do the hand surgery as well.
Yes. I did some work. My chief in Boston was so kind as to allow me to spend 6 months in New York City at the Roosevelt Hospital working with William Littler, who was the father of modern hand surgery, who what a Renaissance man, what a fantastic surgeon. He wrote all the classic textbooks on hand surgery, so I felt very fortunate in working with him. So that was my experience with hand surgery. I thought when I started my practice that I would be a hand surgeon, pretty much.
Is that right?
Even though I had a lot of training in joint replacements at the Lehigh Clinic in Boston and so on. But as it turned out, life takes you where it wants to take you. So although I do hand surgery, I'm by no means strictly a hand surgeon.
So when Dr. Horton was on the show, I said, give me some hints. How do we stay, healthy? How do we keep our joints in shape? And he suggested that stretching is important.
Yes, indeed. Stretching, especially before activity, the weekend athletes especially.
Yeah.
If you don't stretch, and you decide, the heart is willing, but the body isn't quite ready for it.
Yeah.
And it could be a setup for injury.
So how long do you exercise? I mean, stretch. I mean, it's just regular stretching things, because people say, well, how long do I stretch? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour?
No, 5 or 10 minutes is sufficient.
Just to stretch, any suggestions of how to stretch or what we should be doing?
Well, going through, stretch your hamstrings. I could sit on the floor and demonstrate.
So,
no, but
against the wall, I mean. This way, just maybe doing, just so people have an idea what to do, because they say, well, stretch. Some people, some have a little belly and they can't, do the calisthenics like they used to, but just basically arm stretching or whatever, just to do something, correct?
Well, there's stretches that are specific for each body part, whether it's hands, the shoulders, and the hips, and the knees, and so on. So there's a whole series of stretches. The important ones, though, I feel are especially the shoulders, the knees, the ankles, because if you're not used to running, and you suddenly take off.
You don't want to make that mistake like I did with my grandchildren playing soccer. But say, wait a second, this is
exactly.
A lot of golfers are the same way. They get out there and they're swinging without doing any stretching, and that's where I'm sure you've seen a couple of those people coming in.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So, what are some of the things that you're interested? What do you do?
Interested? Oh my! I like sports. I follow the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm excited about their coming up season. I I do a little painting on the side.
Oh.
But basically spending time with the family and kids and grandchildren.
Well, you know, when you get a busy schedule, you know, you try to put everything in perspective, you know.
Yes.
I wish you the best, Doctor. You know,
Thank
you're with a great health group. Lehigh Valley Health Network is a great opportunity. And we're, like I said, in this area, we've been fortunate to have a lot of great doctors. You know, healthcare is important, and it all depends, you know. It's like, I like this person, I don't like this. Just at least if you have a problem, you know you have good healthcare here. So
Indeed.
I wish you the best, and please give my best to Dr. Horton. Tell him I
I
said
will.
hi.
Thank
Folks,
you.
I'm talking to Dr. Peter Kozicky. He's an orthopedic surgeon. The phone number up there is 570-501-6730. And you could learn more about him and what's going on with the Health Network on their website, lvhn.org/Hazelton. And if you want to watch any of our health shows, every one of them that we produce are on our website, ssptv.com, 24/7. We'll see you next time.